All right, you guys already know what time it is. It's your man Nella. Welcome back to another TBG Trial by Gaming feature, and today I'm breaking down the new G.I. Joe Cobra Infantry. Now, as you can tell, it's a dope looking figure, and it's definitely going to answer the question for us today whether or not Hasbro has finally given us a runner-up or a consolation prize for the many of us that weren't able to get Cobra Troopers the first time around. Now, I was able to get two, but of the Cobra Troopers, but I ended up selling one away just because I didn't feel good, obviously hoarding something that was very hard to get. And then on top of that, I always wanted to have a second one, but now that we have a wide release infantry, I was finally able to get one. But here's the deal. It wasn't Big Bad Toy Store. It wasn't Best Buy. It wasn't even Target. It was Walgreens that helped me get this bad boy right here. So again, dope looking figure overall. And I'm going to go ahead and break it down for you guys so you guys can find out if this really is the nice consolation prize that we all needed for the debacle that was the Cobra Trooper. All right, let's get it. All right, you guys, so here we do get the actual figure still in its box, and it is a sweet looking figure. This is obviously slightly decontented compared to the Cobra Trooper from before, but we do get the same basic awesome look, updated paint scheme, and a little bit of a difference to the box itself. It's actually kind of cool. So we do get everything that we see that the figure comes with: the two pistols, the one rifle, the helmet, and then the knife as well. There's nothing else hiding, and right off the bat you can tell that it does look slightly updated. It is a different color scheme. I'm sure you guys can see the extra blues. And then on the bottom right, we do get the exact same pose that the Cobra Trooper's in, but the difference is the Cobra Trooper had the goggles on, and as you can tell here, no goggles. It's just a nice and clear view of the eye. So pretty dope. On the side, we do get another beautiful pose just straight from the front shot of the figure itself. This one is a little bit more directly from the front, and we see a few more Cobra Infantry units on the bottom, and of course the main one up top. And again, I want to say this is the exact same one we got from the Cobra Trooper, but again, we just see the eyes, and it is very fierce looking, and I really fucking like that. It really gives it a view that we haven't seen of the eyes of a lot of these figures. So it is kind of cool that they put some of that artwork on there. It gives a lot of fierceness to the pose. Now here we do have the updated box art, so this does have all the updates for the figures that have been added already to the line. So on the left we are going to have Beachhead and Zartan. On the right we're going to have the Viper, the Infantry Unit, and I believe the Red Ninjas were added as well. And then Firefly above that, and then of course I don't know if it's the Alley Vipers or what they're called, but the orange and blue figures right above at the very top next to Cobra Commander's head. I don't know when we're going to get those. I'm sure we're going to get them very soon, but let me just give you a slight close up. Yeah, so pretty dope looking overall, and I really like that. I really like that as this is obviously coming together more. We are getting an updated box art look. I don't think anybody else in the game is doing something like that, and it's really dope because I can only imagine that they're going to have to adjust this at some point because they are starting to run out of real estate, and I doubt they're going to be able to add more characters unless they make some of the ones we're already seeing here slightly smaller, and that could be pretty dope too because they still have to add Lady J and Flint, and they're running out of real estate. And then of course on the side we get the user statistics, and this is the 24th model of the line, which is pretty crazy that we've gotten 24 in the last year and some change. So that's pretty good. They've been really knocking these out from many different distributors, so this is a pretty dope line. And again, these stats, you basically go into the G.I. Joe app or the online, and then basically from there you can figure out what all these stats are, and surprisingly they're not exactly the same as a Cobra Trooper, which is pretty dope. Now, just a quick note, I know we've been doing some, I've been dealing with a little bit of a lighting issue here. So basically the box that I have in order to review these fit the figures perfectly fine, but they don't fit the actual box itself. So I know this might look a little bit of a downgrade right now, but don't worry, once I get to the actual breakdown of the figures, we'll be back in that light box and it'll look much better. All right, you guys, let's get it. All right, you guys, and here is the infantryman out in all its glory, and I gotta admit, this is a really dope, let's say, consolation prize for those of you that weren't able to get the Cobra Trooper himself. Now, I understand that obviously this G.I. Joe line has been very difficult to be involved with. There's just a very high demand, and neither Hasbro nor Target can really get it out to us, but it's really nice that we are getting at least a version of it. And when it comes down to it, this is an identical piece to the Cobra Trooper. The only things that have really been different is, again, this version has been decontented, obviously. But then what's even better about that is that while it has been slightly decontented, we do have a couple of differences. So notably, it's going to be the paint applications all throughout. So it's not like you're getting a completely different figure, but you're not necessarily, this isn't any less engineering than, let's say, the Cobra Trooper. If you wanted to go back in there and maybe paint this guy up to make it look exactly like a Cobra Trooper, you would have the identical figure. Now, the only place that you can't really go into unless you're really good at painting, and I'm definitely not, is those eyes. Let me go ahead and give you a quick view of that. So apparently for this infantryman, what we've gotten is an update with Hasbro's scannable / printable, I forget what the technology is actually called, but basically they're able to print onto the figure some more details. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this definitely looks pretty hardcore. So let me go ahead and show you the full 360, all the pieces that he does come with, and then we'll go ahead and get into the comparison between him and your favorite, and you'll see what I mean. All right, so here you guys have the front of the figure, side shot, and just like the rest of the G.I. Joes, it's a beautiful neutral pose at attention stance, and it looks phenomenal, especially because of the whole outfit that these guys have. These guys obviously look like military soldiers. Here we do have the rear side, and again, we do see a lot of the detail that we normally see. It almost seems like there's a little bit more shading in this one overall than I've seen in some of the other G.I. Joe figures. I don't know if my camera's picking it up as well as I'm visually seeing it, but there is definitely more shading going on here this time around. Now here we have the right shot, and again, just the same as the other side, pretty solid detail work from top to bottom. All right, you guys, so while the infantryman does come a little bit decontented, that doesn't mean he doesn't come with a lot of content to begin with. So we do get the two pistols that you see here, the rifle, the knife, and the helmet. Now the helmet does have some nice details on it. It's blue with a darker, very dark navy blue in the trim. And then the other guns are all basically made and molded in a full black matte, not really matte, there's a little bit of shine to it, plastic, but it's basically the same black plastic all the way through, so there's nothing necessarily special about it. But I do like the fact that they're all black. The only thing I would like to change is we have in fact seen that gun before, but my only issue with it is this right here. As you can tell, it has a peg that is basically coming out through the top of it, and that's so that you can fit it into the back of the infantry unit. But I wish that they could find another way to maybe peg that onto the back, because it does look a little funny, and it's not really anything that's used for the gun for real, you know what I mean? And it was the same issue that we have with the sniper rifle as well with the trooper. So again, it's just something that I would like to see in a future design, but I am totally fine with it being a completely black figure, because at the end of the day, this looks a lot better than the all green Nerf guns that Beachhead got. So I'm definitely gonna have to customize that later. Now, when it comes to articulation, we have seen this before. Obviously, G.I. Joe does not skimp on a good looking and good articulated figure. So let me go ahead and break it all down for you so you guys can see what this guy comes with. So the neck is jointed from the chest and then above the neck into the head, which does allow him to get a fairly decent amount of movement looking up. Again, definitely enough for me to see that he is directly looking up, so that's pretty dope. And then he look down about this far. So again, definitely enough for me to know that he is looking at least at the ground. Now his head also does do a full 360. And again, it does hinge a little bit by itself at the top. So again, you could get a little bit of that extra range even without the neck. Now with the shoulders, you do get that butterfly joint that you do see right in there. And it's really hard to pick up how much you can move, but you do get a little bit of forward and back. Now, as you can tell, it is the slightest amount, but then on top of that, you do have all the shoulder articulation that allows the arms to come up this far, which does allow him to strike a pretty solid T-pose. And then at the very top of the bicep, we do get a full swivel. And then at the elbows, we do get double jointed, which does allow him to flex. And this does bring it noticeably past 90 degrees. Now, it really depends on how you want to play with it, right? Because I can also kind of do this kind of movement right there, and then it really just depends on the clearance you're trying to give him to be able to put the butt of the stock right in there when you're trying to make him aim down sight, but it is pretty far for the double joints. And then the wrists themselves are on a hinge, which does allow his hand Only to go about that far back due to the armor. As you can tell, it's fully touching. And then he can go forward about that far, which does give him a really good amount of posability. Now the other arm is exactly the same. The only difference is that we get that cowboy joint in the wrist. That's about as far as it can go up. And then you get just the slightest bit down, and that was kind of the same issue that we had with the Cobra Trooper. You do get a little bit of down angle, enough to probably make an actual change in the way that you can pose the figure. So it's enough. It could be a little more, and I wish it was a little more, but at the same time, they may have needed to break up the sculpt a little bit in order to get that to work. Now, he does have a little bit of that ab hinge, but of course, he's wearing that vest over it, so it does make it harder for you to see. But he does come forward about that much. That definitely at least shows you that there is a little bit of articulation in there, but it's not going to be as much as if he didn't have this armor on. Now that's about as far back as he does go, and as I mentioned, it is something that looks pretty dope in terms of being able to get at least a little bit of articulation out of it to let you know that he is moving under that vest. Now he also has obviously the swivel at the waist, so he does do a full 360, as you can tell right there. And then just like the rest of the G.I. Joes, at the hips they do drop down, as you can see right there. I just want to make sure you guys get a better look at that. As you can tell, it does add definitely some height to him, but it's really more so you can drop down and get a little bit more articulation out of the legs. So that way then he can kick up way past 90 degrees. That's going like straight up. That is pretty damn good. Then we do have swivel at the top of the thigh, and it does do a full 360. And then we do have the double jointed knee, which does allow him to get about as far as you will ever need. Almost can kick his own ass, but really it'll no matter how much you try to finesse it, it won't bend that far. It'll really come up more towards his back than his own butt, but it does come really far. This is more than you'll ever need. You'll be able to get into all the poses that you really want. Now at the top of the calf, we do get a really nice hidden joint thanks to that armor plate that's right there. And then as you saw a second ago, you do get that swivel at the feet, which goes really, the rocker at the feet, which go really far. And then it can go up about that far. So not too much, but just enough. And then it goes down perfectly fine. You get plenty of range out of that. All right, so these Cobra Infantrymen are the real deal, guys. When it comes to all the Cobra stuff that they're coming out with right now, they're coming out with some really badass stuff. And this Infantryman is, again, just not an exception to that rule. It's really badass. I know that many of you may have gone through the trouble of trying to find troopers and maybe you didn't get any. This is a great consolation prize. It comes with 90% of what you would want. Yeah, it doesn't come with the goggles. Yeah, it doesn't come with the extra gun, but it does come with updated paint apps, which we are going to get into in the comparison in a moment. But I did want to make it clear that this is something that I think you are going to like plentifully. Now, none of the G.I. Joe figures are a joke. They're all badass. My least favorite one might be Scarlet, and my most favorite one has to be one of these new ones that I've gotten in recent memory. And this Infantryman is definitely no slouch. He's definitely up there. Great paint apps, good articulation, good look overall, and everybody loves these kind of infantry looking characters that we can army build. So it's really nice that Hasbro has taken into consideration that a lot of people, again, weren't able to get that Cobra Trooper and have given it to us in this new package that also makes us feel like we're not just getting an inferior product. There is no difference between this one and the Trooper, and that'll bring me into the next portion. Oh, in terms of the overall body, obviously the paint apps are different, and we're going to get into that right now, so I'm going to give you guys the comparison. Alright, you guys, so there we have both the Trooper on the right, Infantryman on the left, and I just have to say that they both look really badass together. And it's really badass to see some of the differences right next to each other. Right off the bat, you can tell that in terms of the engineering of the figure, they're identical. They're basically identical pieces all the way through. Nothing's really changed here in terms of that. But when it comes to paint application, that's where we're going to see the main differences. And in some cases, I feel that the Trooper is better, but in other cases, the Infantry definitely takes the cake. Because again, they don't want to necessarily make it so that you, the exclusive character is suddenly the one that's the cheaper not as good character. They're not going to do that, right? But they do want to give you a reason to want to go out and buy this one and not feel like you got the inferior product with the infantryman. So let me go ahead and highlight some of the differences. So the number one difference that you guys are going to immediately notice is going to be the eyes. They're definitely different. They're not just a different skin tone, but they're a different application overall. And I think I can kind of see how on the left, the 3D printing has definitely given it a slightly more realistic look than what we get on the right, which still looks a little bit more cartoony. But look how angry these assholes look, dude. These guys look pissed, and I love that because these are supposed to be the bad guys, right? They're not supposed to have like a stern look. They're supposed to look like they're going to do bad, and both of them look that way. And what's very cool is that they do get different skin tone colors, so it almost looks like you're getting, it doesn't almost look, it obviously looks like you're getting two different characters. So if you did have, let's say, 2 infantrymen and 2 troopers, it would look like you had 4 separate characters thanks to that skin color difference that we see here. And it's really cool to see, and I'm really cool they made the guy on the left a little browner. I like that. I'm Latin myself, so it is pretty cool to see. All right, on another note, let's go ahead and get into the main differences of the torso, which you guys are already seeing. Now, for the most part, they do follow some of the same stuff, but let me go ahead and point out the differences. Number one, the red that we see here compared to the red that we see on that logo, it is just slightly different. I want to say it's a slightly deeper red on the Trooper, but I think that that really has to do more with the black backdrop, while on the left side, it's more of a dark navy blue, and that allowed for a slightly different saturation of the color, but it still looks pretty good. Second of all, we are going to notice that overall, obviously, we get black colors all the way through. So we get black on the helmet, black on the actual face shield, and then black on the vest, and it's an entire black piece all the way through. Now, I'm sure that was done maybe more for a sinister look, but I do like the fact that over here on the infantrymen, we do end up getting so blue all the way around, right? But then on many places we don't get blue, right? So the guns are black, so that contrast looks nice. And then all the strap work for this one has been painted. And while I understand that this might look a little bit more badass because it's all black, I think it would have looked really cool if we would have gotten some of this color, you know, right here as well on all the pieces that we should have. So for me, the infantryman takes the cake when it comes to the paint applications, because we actually get paint applications overall. Now, the only other place where I'm going to say that I see any real difference, and I don't know if it's going to be picked up, but let me double check. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see that right there, but on the Trooper, we get this paint application through the basically highlights, right? The trim is this silvery color, and you don't pick it up too well on the camera, but when you are seeing it physically with your own eyes, it looks really good. And on the infantryman, we don't see that at all. It is a flat black all the way through. And that is the one place where I will say, in terms of the paint applications, it definitely looks better on the Trooper. But again, maybe these guys are supposed to be more of a character in the backdrop anyway. So the person that really needs that paint application is going to be more so the Trooper. Now, the other difference that you're obviously going to notice is the fact that other than the goggles that the Trooper comes with that we don't get right here for the infantryman, the other thing that we're going to see that's different is the Trooper comes with a like dark black metallic color on the forearms, but on the infantryman we get more of this, again, navy blue color, and that part I don't like. I don't think that they would really have some kind of navy colorish body armor. I really think that they would have came with body armor, again, more of that gunmetal color that we see here, and that's something that I might want to get customized at some point, because again, I don't think that looks correct to me. Maybe something that you like, but that's something that for me is a little bit of a letdown, but it doesn't look bad in any way. It's the exact same sculpt. It looks really clean. It does look really good. I'm glad that the armor is there, but again, I would like to see that gunmetal color instead. Now, when it comes to the legs, that's where we're going to see a few more differences right there. So over here, now, let me just preface this by saying it's the exact same sculpt. The only thing that's changed is the paint colors. And so what you're going to see here on the infantryman is that the infantryman is going to have this blue, darker blue color coming down, while this one right here, it's a solid blue all the way down to the calves. And that's where I'm going to say this is definitely cool, because it does have that difference in color, right? So a little bit more depth to it coming down, and then we get that bluish colors. Now, also, we are going to see that back padding right there is going to be sort of somewhat the same color as this straps up here, while on the Trooper we're going to see this just a solid black all the way down. So again, another portion where this character did come with more paint, but I do wish he had more of that gunmetal black armor color down here as well, as you see. Now on the back side, we're going to finish seeing the color differences. So basically, when it comes to the under part of the boots, we get a navy blue on the bottom. You know what, let me adjust the camera. All right, so we are going to get more of a navy blue color coming out from the bottom of the Trooper, while for the Infantryman we actually get black, and I kind of wish they were both black. I like the way this looks a bit more, but I understand that maybe over here they didn't want to give that color contrast, considering that the armor itself is black, but I just think that would look like a better color combo overall. And I do like that it's black here, but again, I wish that they had the more gunmetalish black color for the armor on the front. And then let me just see if I can adjust it so you guys can see it. If you guys will look right there when it comes to the back, you'll notice more of that same all black on this one, and then that blue, but you still get the straps being colored in, and again the black gun here popping out more than we see right here on the Trooper. So the reality is, guys, if you weren't able to get the Trooper and you are looking to still build up your ranks, the Infantryman is a wonderful figure to get to go alongside with your Troopers. And if you weren't able to get any Troopers at all, these Infantrymen are a wide release, so you will be able to get your hands on this. From my understanding, pre-orders are still open. They're starting to hit shelves at Walgreens, Target's next. I'm sure, you know, it'll follow with places like Best Buy and Walmart. So we are going to see a wide release, and you should be able to get your hands on these ones. And it is getting a bit harder to find through apps because Walgreens doesn't do any of that, so you just have to walk in and see if you can find it. But again, I think this is a good addition or a good consolation prize if you were not able to get that original Trooper. But I think it's going to look cool all the same, having such depth in the difference of both figures. So before I finish up, let me give you guys the usual size comparison. So here we have Dengar from the Star Wars Black series, and I'm not going to say he's one of the shorter characters. He's about average, and this still looks pretty good, pretty solid overall, but the Infantryman is definitely on the taller side compared to him. But I think it's still something that within pictures will be reasonable to look at. And then on the left, we do get my recently acquired Zartan. Be on the lookout for a review. I will be getting it out soon. But as you can tell, Zartan is a big boy. I did not realize how big he was as a character. And I'm going to have to do a size comparison on him on some other ones, because I can't tell if he's one of the taller figures that we've gotten so far. But definitely a large character. But they scale perfectly well. This definitely looks pretty dope. Having this Infantryman next to Zartan himself. Now for some other figures that are scaled a little differently, on the right we're gonna have Jace right here, and as you can tell, he is notably smaller. I think the proportions of obviously these kinds of figures aren't going to look as good as they should, but he is supposed to be a shorter character, and this still could be believable, but he would be definitely smaller than even someone like Scarlet. And then on the left, we're going to have Axel, and this is from Storm Collectibles, and they are more of a 7-inch line, so this is wildly out of proportion. You know, this looks like a child with his father, so it's not going to work out, but still overall a pretty good looking figure. Alright, so there you have it, guys. This is definitely a dope figure overall. There is no beating the Cobra Trooper. This has been a, you know, since we first saw this announced with the Trooper, the Infantryman body and just the look overall, it's been a total hit, home run by Hasbro. And I felt bad that the last time around a lot of people really weren't able to get this. This was definitely something that everybody thought looked cool, that everybody wanted, that for, you know, around 20 bucks. It was a total steal. And I thought that, you know, it really sucked that a lot of people weren't able to get their hands on it, and that if you wanted it, you're going to have to pay ridiculous eBay prices, Amazon prices. But now here we have the Infantryman, and it's a dope figure. Again, it's 90% of the same one, for the exception of some accessories, some updated paint apps, and it has its own strengths that make this one a good standalone figure, even if you only can get a couple of these. But again, this is going to be wide release, so if you want to get 5 or 6, you might very well be able to get 5 or 6. And it's definitely nice that Hasbro was able to do that for us, because we're all collectors that are really trying to get these. And it really sucks when, you know, Target's eating them up, you know, scalpers are eating them up, online retailers, you know, sell out immediately. So something like this is definitely showing us that Hasbro is paying attention and trying to get, again, the mold to us, even if it does look a little different at the end of the day. But again, this is something that I think is worth adding to the collection. And if you weren't able to get the Trooper, these infantrymen are just dope overall. Alright guys, so if you did like all that, please like, comment, subscribe. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments below if there's something that I can do to make this content any better for you. If there's anything I need to change to cater the content. As you saw, I do have Zartan, and I was able to actually get the redecos of both Scarlet and Roadblock. So I'm going to be doing those in the coming weeks. Hopefully I can get it out to you sooner rather than later, but go ahead and keep an eye out for that, because I am going to bring you guys as much content as I can over the next few weeks. All right, you guys. So as per usual, TBG, I am Nello, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Deuces.